Come on, come on, come on.
All right, 25 minutes before 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. It's time for NewsBites. This is the portion of the show during which Robin and I will read the news from the different news agencies that we subscribe to here at the source, WOCA, and we'll abbreviate those stories. We'll shorten them for the very purpose of giving you a chance to catch up on as much news as possible in a short period of time. The news agency that we reference is your key to going online and reading the full story. The first one I am getting off of the New York Times website. It is out of Ferguson, Missouri. In the 5 days since an unarmed young black man was fatally shot by a police officer in Ferguson, the selective release of information about the shooting and especially the anonymity granted to the officer has stoked frustrations in this largely African-American community north of St. Louis, where residents describe increasingly tense relations with the police. The police chief, Thomas Jackson, has repeatedly declined to identify the officer who has been put on administrative leave, but on Wednesday the chief did offer a new detail about the shooting, which has kindled nights of racial unrest and an unyielding police response with tear gas, rubber bullets, and arrests. Chief Jackson said that the officer who shot Michael Brown, who was 18 years old, on Saturday was struck in the face during the encounter and treated at a hospital. Touching his own cheek, the chief said that a side of the officer's face was swollen from what police have described as a struggle in which Mr. Brown assaulted the officer and tried to take his gun, an account disputed by a witness, a friend of Mr. Brown's, who said his hands were raised when the last of several shots was fired.
Republican Tim Walberg and Senator Rand Paul have introduced two different bills aimed at reforming civil asset forfeiture, a little-known law enforcement tool that can be used to seize people's cash, cars, or other property, even if the owner has not been charged with a crime. This is a quote: "My legislation raises the level of proof necessary for government to seize property. It restores the principle of innocence until proven guilty by placing the burden on the government to prove a property owner had knowledge of criminal activity, and restricts the uses of equitable sharing agreements between the Department of Justice and local or state law enforcement agencies that infringe upon state laws." This is from Walberg. He said this statement during a recent discussion on civil asset forfeiture sponsored by the Heritage Foundation, reported by CNS News.
And from Fox News, the United Nations announced it had declared the humanitarian crisis in Iraq to be the highest level of emergency, while clashes between Iraq troops and Sunni militants west of Baghdad killed at least 4 children this morning. The UN yesterday declared the situation in Iraq a level 3 emergency, a development that will trigger additional goods, funds, and assets to respond to the needs of the displaced, according to the UN. Special Representative Nikolay Mladinov, pointing to the scale and complexity of the current humanitarian catastrophe. The UN Security Council also said it was backing a newly nominated premier designate in the hopes that he can swiftly form an inclusive government that could counter the insurgent threat, which has plunged Iraq into its worst crisis since the U.S. troop withdrawal in 2011.
Americans say the U.S. government, the economy, and immigration are the top 3 problems facing the country today. This is according to a new Gallup poll released yesterday. The poll showed that 18% of people say that the government and politicians are the biggest problem, while 14% say the economy is the top challenge. About 15% say immigration is the most important issue, jumping up from just 5% in June, likely due to a flood of unaccompanied minors crossing the border this summer, reported by the Washington Times.
And in a related story from the Wall Street Journal, municipal school systems around the country are gearing up to absorb tens of thousands of children who arrived illegally from Central America for the new school school year. This influx, mostly from El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, will stress the resources of schools from large metropolitan areas to small towns from California to New York. A minimum of 37,000 children who have been placed with sponsors as of July 31st are eligible to attend public school, according to the Wall Street Journal. Among the systems expected to be most heavily impacted are those in Texas, where over 5,000 illegal migrant pupils will be showing up for school, as well as New York and California, which will each get about 4,000 arrivals, according to the Wall Street Journal. Many will come with psychological scars requiring trauma counseling. Almost all will need remedial help in learning English. Every single one will have access to subsidized nutritional programs.
If you've been on social media this week, chances are you've seen the videos of people taking the Ice Bucket Challenge. This is a viral movement designed to raise awareness for ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. It started in Massachusetts with former Boston College baseball player Pete Frates. Frates was diagnosed with ALS in 2012. Former New Orleans Saints player Steve Gleason took the challenge and raised the bar in his Vimeo post, showing him taking the challenge in the buff. Gleason himself suffers from the disease. In the Vimeo post, Gleason thanks Frates for raising awareness. He states that in the United States, an ALS patient dies every 90 minutes. We could have 6 billion people dump ice over their head, and it would not change the brutal and silent death over 100,000 people worldwide will experience in the next 12 months. He then proposes his Naked Ice Bucket Challenge, saying, "So, in addition to dumping ice on your head, step up. Donate, get involved, care for a patient. That's it. I will see your Ice Bucket Challenge and raise you a Naked Ice Bucket Challenge, because everything is better when you are naked." Okay, maybe not everything. Gleason then challenged New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu, Saints quarterback Drew Brees, Pearl Jam's Mike McCready, and Gleason's brother. This is reported by WDSU out of New Orleans.
And the next story is from the Associated Press. Authorities are searching for 2 Amish girls who they say may have been abducted from a roadside stand in northern New York. The St. Lawrence County Sheriff's Office says police patrols are out searching this morning for 6-year-old Delilah Miller and 12-year-old Fannie Miller. Officials issued an Amber Alert for the 2 girls after they were apparently abducted around 7:30 yesterday evening in the rural town of Oswegatchie, New York. I'm sorry, that would be on the Canadian side. On the Canadian border, about 150 miles northwest of Albany. It is in New York. Police say the girls went to wait on a customer at the family's roadside stand. A witness saw a passenger in the vehicle put something into the back seat, and when the vehicle drove off, the children were gone. Both girls were wearing dark blue dresses with blue aprons and blue bonnets.
Oh, my God. Former Florida Governor Charlie Crist has launched a 3-day tour by school bus to talk about education funding. Crist, who is running again for his old job since Governor Rick Scott, has been bad news for schools in the Sunshine State. Crist, quote, "You know the disappointment that Rick Scott has been. He's cut so much from education, $1.3 billion. But the $1.3 billion in cuts is even worse than that. He actually tried to cut it more than $4 billion. Crist started his Restore the Cuts bus tour in Tallahassee, and then he headed for Jacksonville yesterday. Today he is in Orlando and Tampa, and tomorrow he will wrap up in Miami," reported by the Florida News Network.
And from the Associated Press, the highest-ranking U.S. military officer to be killed in America's post-9/11 wars will be laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery today. A burial service will be held this afternoon for Major General Harold J. Green. The 2-star general was an engineer who worked his way up through the ranks in a 34-year Army career. Most of it was spent developing, building, and supplying soldiers with equipment and technology. Green's deployment to Afghanistan in January was his first to a war zone. He was killed on August 5th when a gunman believed to be an Afghan soldier opened fire at a military academy near Kabul. We need to take a little break and catch up on the weather forecast and a couple of commercials, and we'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Sunshine mixing with clouds today with a couple of thunderstorms around this afternoon. The high 88 to 92. Then partly cloudy tonight with a thunderstorm around early on near the coast. Low 73 to 77. Partly sunny tomorrow with a couple of thunderstorms popping up in the afternoon. High 86 to 90. And for Saturday, times of sun and clouds, a couple of showers and a thunderstorm mainly in the afternoon. The high 87 to 91. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Let's face it, nowadays it can be hard to find American-made products, and that's something that Cabinet Sales of North Florida is well aware of. That's why they're an authorized dealer of Wellborn Cabinetry, family-owned and American-made since 1961. Cabinet Sales of North Florida is your answer for complete turnkey kitchen remodels and whole-house cabinetry. Their cabinets are finished with solvent-based enamels for a long-lasting finish that's second to none. Available in an incredible selection of door styles and colors to choose from to turn your dream kitchen into a reality. In-house design and drawing services are available. Come by and see our displays for yourself at the Floors of the Villages, 3935 County Road 216 in Oxford, or Exquisite Design Kitchen and Bath in Bellevue, right across the street from the Bellevue Library. So whether you're looking for bookcases, kitchen, bath, or outdoor kitchen, Cabinet Sales of North Florida is your one-stop source of quality cabinets. For a free estimate, call 352-427-2647. That's 352-427-2647. Cabinet Sales of North Florida.
You've got a garden and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source.
Hi, I'm Yvette, and I'm here to tell you a few things about ABC Frederick's Appliance. They sell not only new, but used guaranteed appliances. When you call ABC Frederick's Appliance, they will provide service on what they sell and any appliances that you own. ABC Frederick's Appliance is located in Bellevue, right over the railroad tracks. Call 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. ABC Frederick's Appliance.
News Talk 1370, WOCA invites you to discover your full business potential. News Talk Radio is the perfect environment for your advertising. WOCA's News Talk format pinpoints information-hungry, better educated, high-income adults, so use us to talk to them. Call 732-8000, 732-8000. We're Ocala News Talk Radio. News Talk 1370, WOCA.
12 minutes before 9 o'clock, let's return now to NewsBites. The next story is from the Washington Times. David Axelrod, a former advisor to President Obama with a reputation for Chicago-style politics and a win-at-all-costs attitude, took a jab at former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton on social media, tweeting a sharp response to her public criticism of White House foreign affairs. Just to clarify, he writes, "Don't do stupid stuff," means stuff like occupying Iraq in the first place, which was a tragically bad decision, he tweeted. According to CNN, he seems to be referencing Mrs. Clinton's 2002 vote while senator to go forward with the Iraq War, according to the report.
Florida's Chief Financial Officer Jeff Atwater, who also serves as Florida's State Fire Marshal, announced the arrest of a Central Florida man on arson charges related to a mobile home fire. Sanford resident Curtis Smith was the person arrested. Authorities asked for the public's help to locate Smith's half-brother, Stephen Angle, as he may have information to assist in the investigation that surrounds 10 other fires set in Sanford and the surrounding rural areas. The Chief Financial Officer also announced the reward for information leading to a conviction in the Sanford fires. It has been increased to $11,000. Curtis Smith was arrested following a mobile home fire set early in the morning on August the 8th in Sanford. He has been charged with attempted murder and first-degree arson. Investigators said that Engel was not considered a suspect, and they were even hesitant to use the expression person of interest. They noted that he may be someone who knows something that would help them in their investigation. Since June 30th, 11 fires have been set in Sanford and the surrounding rural areas of Seminole County. Anyone with information about the Sanford fires are asked to call 1-877-NO-ARSON or the crime line at 1-800-423 TIPS, reported by the Florida News Network.
And from ABC News, an American woman was found dead and stuffed into a suitcase at a Bali resort, and her teenage daughter was arrested in connection to the grisly murder. The teen's boyfriend was also arrested. A taxi driver found the bloody suitcase containing 62-year-old Sheila Von Weiss Mack's remains in his trunk on Tuesday. He told police the suspected couple had hailed his cab outside the ritzy St. Regis Bali resort and dropped off the suitcase and 2 bags before going back inside the hotel. They never returned, according to the police report. Wow.
England's Prime Minister David Cameron has raised the prospect of British helicopters being involved in the rescue of 30,000 refugees in Iraq, as he vowed to get these people off of that mountain. The Prime Minister said that the refugees are facing a desperate humanitarian situation as they have been left exposed, starving, and dying of thirst on Mount Sinai in northern Iraq. This came after Leanne Duncan Smith, the Work and Pension Secretary, said that while the government is not planning to recommend the recall of Parliament at present, that position may well change. That's reported by The Telegraph.
And from the Miami Herald, Office Depot could receive up to $5 million in new economic incentives from the state of Florida as well as local governments, on top of millions of dollars granted years earlier for keeping its headquarters and jobs here in Florida. Office Depot announced in December that it would keep its headquarters in Boca Raton, but the amount of the total incentive package had been kept a secret. The details, however, were included in a staff recommendation to the Palm Beach County Commission in their August 19th agenda. An amended agreement with Office Depot requires the office supply retailer to create 378 jobs and retain 2,328 jobs over 5 years, according to the staff recommendation. Of the total, $3 million will come from Governor Rick Scott's Quick Action Closing Fund, which is used to sway employers considering other states. This is the second grant from the secretive multi-million-dollar Governor's Fund. Back in 2006, Office Depot received a $2.7 million grant under former Governor Charlie Crist.
Approximately 2 out of every 5 Americans will develop type 2 diabetes at some point during their adult lives. This is according to new United States government estimates. The ongoing diabetes and obesity epidemics have combined with ever-increasing human lifespans to raise lifetime risk of type 2 diabetes to about 40% for both men and women, said the lead study author Edward Gregg, chief of the Epidemiology and Statistics branch in the Division of Diabetes Translation at the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, reported by CBS.
From the Associated Press, a British air accident report has recounted how a pilot lost control of a passenger plane after his artificial arm became detached during landing. The report says the incident took place as the Flybe flight from Birmingham carrying 47 passengers was approaching Belfast City Airport in gusty conditions back in February. The 46-year-old pilot had shortly before checked that his prosthetic lower left arm was securely attached to the yoke clamp, but as he performed a maneuver just before touchdown, the limb became detached. The Air Accidents Investigation branch said this morning that he then moved his right hand to the yoke to regain control. Winds caused the plane to land heavily with a bounce. No one was hurt in the incident.
An Orlando, Florida resident, Jason Lynn Gay, pleaded guilty yesterday to making threats against the President of the United States. That's according to a release from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Florida. Gay, according to officials, faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in federal prison. According to court documents, on May 29, 2013, Gay mailed a letter to the United States Courthouse in Orlando. In this letter, he threatened to assault and murder an FBI agent. He also threatened to take the life of and inflict bodily harm upon President Barack Obama. Gay further threatened to blow up the federal courthouse. On May 31st, 2013, a clerk at the courthouse in Orlando received, opened, and read the letter. On June 3rd, 2013, and again on January 16th, 2014, federal agents interviewed Gay regarding the threats he made in the letter. In these interviews, Gay acknowledged writing the letter and reaffirmed his desire to kill President Obama. A sentencing date has not yet been set, reported by the Florida News Network.
And from ABC News, a woman hit a home run when her family's collection of professional baseball cards and some letters received an insurance valuation of at least $1 million during a taping of the TV show Antiques Roadshow. The woman's name was not released because of security reasons. The collection was part of a family heirloom passed down through 5 generations to her by her great-great-grandmother. Leila Dunbar, an Antiques Roadshow appraiser, said she knew immediately that the collection was special. This is not your run-of-the-mill 1980s, 1990s tops that come through your door. You have the pioneers here of professional baseball, Dunbar said. The woman's great-grandmother ran a boarding home in Boston in the 1870s when the Red Sox baseball team, known as the Red Stockings, housed its players there.
The president of the Evangelical Environmental Network stops off in the Florida state capitol to pray that Rick Scott will see the light on climate change. The Reverend Mitch Hescox also delivered a flash drive with the names of 60,000 Floridians, all describing themselves as pro-life Christians who want the governor to acknowledge the problem. His quote, "We can no longer deny it. We have to deal with it to get our heads out of the sand. It's time for the church to rise up because we're hurting God's creation." Hescox says climate change is not a liberal issue. He calls it a moral crisis. Hescox says it's time to stop fixating on polar bears and talk about the real damage we're doing to the planet and our children. After delivering the petitions and a Bible to the governor's office, Hescox will stop off at a small chapel in the Capitol to pray that the governor will have a change of heart on global warming, reported by the Florida News Network.
And from MSNBC, new research suggests that healthy people can eat about twice the amount of salt that is currently recommended, or about as much as most people consume anyway. The controversial findings could potentially undercut widespread public health messages about salt. An international study of more than 100,000 people published yesterday in the New England Journal of Medicine suggests that while there is a relationship between salt intake and high blood pressure, if you don't already have high blood pressure and you're not over 60 or eating way too much salt, salt won't have much impact on your blood pressure.
While Congress is on recess and President Obama vacations in Martha's Vineyard, a coalition of free press groups is escalating an already aggressive campaign against the Obama administration for allegedly freezing out the press and cracking down on reporters. The flood of critical letters and petitions and statements from First Amendment groups marks a new level of tension in a relationship that for years has been deteriorating. Though Obama, as a candidate in 2008, was widely seen to enjoy favorable media treatment, his administration now is fielding accusations that it's one of the least transparent in history. Society of Professional Journalists President David Coulier, in a statement earlier this week, blasted the Obama administration for what he called excessive message management and preventing journalists from getting information on behalf of the citizens, reported by Fox News.
And from CNN, for 5 years, they pursued her, always one step behind, as she used aliases and altered her appearance to elude them. But Janet Kilo Barretto's luck ran out at a shopping mall in Portland, Oregon, where the U.S. Marshals Service caught up with her, the lone female fugitive in their 15 most wanted list. The crimes they are alleged to have committed are nothing short of horrendous and despicable, Union County, Mississippi Sheriff Jimmy Edwards said about Barretto and her husband. His department aided in the search because her alleged crimes took place in his jurisdiction. Now it's time for justice to be served, was the rest of his quote. Barretto is 43 years old. She and her husband, Raymond, allegedly traveled to Guatemala on multiple occasions in 2005 and 2006 to purchase children from a local adoption agencies. Authorities say the children were brought back to the U.S. and were malnourished, physically abused, and forced to sleep on beds with plywood bottoms. All right, we need to move forward. Veterans News is coming up in just a few minutes. Robin, how many stories were we able to get
21.
in? 21. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. A fourth night of demonstrations turns violent in a St. Louis suburb.
Today was supposed to have been the first day of school for kids in